The day after Thanksgiving. I look a bit of a wreck. I know. Haven't showered, haven't washed my hair yet. Another year. Another glorious example of my ex wanting to be in another state because spending time with their kids isn't good enough. Dogs want to go chase the birds. Alright, I'm coming. One of the major downsides of dealing with an ex is dealing with former in-laws. And once upon a time, I liked my mother-in-law, never liked my father-in-law, mostly because he was overt and making clear he didn't like me. And people used to say, well, it's probably because you guys are very alike. First of all, that's not a compliment because that suggests I like myself. It also suggests he likes himself. And if he likes himself that way, he's the fucking problem. So, I made a very polite reminder to my ex that Skype was acceptable. And I would ask the kids, and if they wanted to do it, we would do it. Many hours later, I had heard nothing back, so in the text message between the in-laws and the ex, I said, I don't know if the ex mentioned it, but I said Skype is fine with me. The kids, being neurodivergent, are used to the format, given that half of the Thanksgivings they've ever experienced, their dad hasn't been here. That's a factual truth. Mathematically, that is factually true given the age of our younger child. And my father-in-law, the SOB, decides to come back with, well, if you want to pick a fight and if you want to be passive-aggressive, and that's not my recollection. I mean, it's unfortunate you guys were invited but chose never to come. No. I was habitually told that my very reasonable concerns about traveling and weather in the Northeast in late November and the expense of having our pets taken care of for the 3 days we'd be away and the hotel expense were unreasonable. I was told I was the problem. So if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it honestly, shall we? Now, when you have former in-laws who were ever in their life in a position of power or authority, and I mean that in like a structured hierarchical sense, like parole officers, cops, lawyers, anything in the criminal justice system, which mine happened to have been. The fucking arrogance. Oh my God, the fucking arrogance. He tries to come back at me with this, well, that's not my recollection. And I went, really? Because I have supporting evidence. Don't start with the person who has receipts. I literally have documentation. I can literally prove what I'm saying. So your recollection is irrelevant to the evidence. I'm autistic. I'm not talking about memory. I'm talking about fact. I'm talking about what I can prove. So I don't care what your memory is. And immediately it becomes the attack posture. Same as the child who I am divorcing. Well, you know, if you're going to pick a fight and if you're going to be passive-aggressive, I'm not going to do this with you. Followed by, well, I checked my seating charts. Oh, now you're fucking the hostess? I'm supposed to accept your seating charts as valid evidence? Seating charts that you're not showing me. That I'm just supposed to accept you quoting. Meanwhile, your seating charts don't account for the years that my ex was with their mistress. Okay? Don't act like your evidence is acceptable and my evidence is not. Because first of all, invalid on its face. Second of all, I can outweigh your evidence, sheer magnitude. Okay? Second of all, when we're comparing apples to apples and the person you're trying to defend is the person who assaulted me in front of my children, shut up. On its face, shut up. So you remember a couple of videos where I talked about rebranding And then since then, I've talked about being a survivor and processing through trauma. This is part of that trauma. Trauma heals internally when you have a chance to work through it and deal with it in the ways that you need to deal with it. Therapy, medication, both, whatever that process is for you. These are different from physical traumas, psychological, emotional, physical, mental traumas. These are all different. They have different layers of pain, different layers of healing. They're all different. But part of healing from trauma is having it end, having it not continue, having it not re-inflicted, having it not be a sustained process. You can't heal from something that doesn't end. So when you cut toxic people out, which I've done with other people in my life, that's part of healing. That's part of ending your trauma. And that's why I'm okay cutting these people out of my life. Because I said a very factual, honest thing. I'm okay with Skype. I don't know if they told you about it. I am explaining to you that my kids are okay with the process as neurodivergent children because they've done it so often before. And the response I got from this person was attack, 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 gaslight, passive-aggressive posturing. Not, okay, this is the time frame that works for us. Not any reasonable, logical answer. Not accepting what I said and moving on because they didn't want to engage in anything having to do with the past or my relationship with their child. They chose to dive in head first. Then attack me, call me the aggressor, call me passive-aggressive, act like I'm the one picking a fight because I stated something factual, and then they wonder why their child acts the way their child acts. It is learned behavior in many, many cases. This kind of abuse, this kind of passing on of trauma is learned behavior. And this is why I'm okay cutting these grandparents out of my children's lives. If I don't want them exposed to it from that parent, but I currently have no choice, you're many states away. I have no reason to let you anywhere near them, and you're giving me more reasons not to. It's a text conversation, you asshat. Do you genuinely think I can't prove what I'm saying about you? And I called him out on it. I flatly called him out on it. I said to him, are you kidding me with this? You expect me to accept your bullying, manipulative tactic? You expect me to accept your seating chart as factual evidence? Meanwhile, what I'm telling you, I have completely supportable, validated evidence and receipts about, is whole cloth unacceptable for you? You must be out of your mind. You want to talk about blame the victim? No wonder you've raised a child who flatly denies the fact that they physically assaulted someone in front of witnesses. Act like I don't know what I'm saying when I have evidence. And it's especially worse with people who come from within the system. It's not just this in-law. It's especially worse in my experience with people who come from within the system. Probation officers, cops, attorneys of every stripe. They genuinely think that they know more, they know better, and they can say, oh, well, I can discredit your evidence. No, you really can't. Evidence is evidence. It genuinely is. Like, evidence is still evidence. You're literally not a judge. Unless you have supporting evidence of why mine is wrong, unless you can actually disprove with literal fact, Shut up. First of all, you weren't there. Second of all, you weren't there. Third of all, you have none of the supporting information. You weren't a witness. You weren't a participant. You aren't a medical professional related to anything having to do with what I'm saying. Love dog. Hey, dog. Yeah, I'm okay. I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm a little frustrated. I love you too. Being leaned on. Are you guys done wrestling? So that's how at least half of my Thanksgiving was spent. Really, it bothers me so much. It bothers me so much. You know, and I can't name names. I can't actually give details and things like this in what I post, because it'll trigger whole other processes. All I can say is what I know to be true and what I know to have evidence of and what I know that the necessary lawyers have evidence of, because I wouldn't post something unless I had the evidence and had provided it to the appropriate legal resources, and still bitch wants to run her mouth. Still asshole wants to run his mouth. Still idiot wants to run their mouth. All of these people down the list of stupid. And yes, I'm using all three pronouns for a reason, because it's more than one person doing more than one thing in more than one category across more than one conversation. And I'm trying to be non-specific and vague. So I messaged them later. I messaged my ex after all that bullshit with their dad, and I was like, you know, my question never actually got fucking answered. And all I got back was a one-line answer. No, Skype won't work today. Meanwhile, my ex never actually called privately, never actually sent a voice message that evening, never actually phone called, video called, just said, nope, Skype won't work. They're not in town today. They're not going to get back in town until today, which means they're not going to see them until tomorrow, which was only agreed to at the last fucking minute because they didn't have the spine to bring up the holiday until I brought it up, as always. And then at the last minute, when I said, you think you're going to fly back the same day and see them on a major holiday when you haven't booked your flights the week before the holiday? I'm sorry, how stupid are you? 3 hours later, oh, I guess you're right. No shit, Sherlock. I haven't flown basically since 9/11, and I know how the airlines work. Woke up with a massive headache as a result. Massive fucking headache. And just after the kids and I had gone to bed, my parents called to say thank you for, what food I had brought over and what I had offered to make, and, that they were thankful for me and the kids, and they wanted to make sure the day didn't end without them calling and saying that to me. And it wasn't late. It was like 9 o'clock at night. It's just the kids and I go to bed early. So we talked for a few minutes, and I told them about this whole bullshit, and that I appreciated the call, and obviously we were thankful for them, and we love them too, and I hope my dad's feeling better because he's still recovering from his heart attack, and it was a normal day. Around this house, it was a normal day. It wasn't a holiday. Because I'm thankful for my kids every day. I'm thankful for my pets every day. I'm thankful that bullshit is out of my house. Hey. Ah. Erebus. That. It's just generational toxicity, and I don't want it spreading to my kids. I already see it. Little hints of evidence in the older one. The older one literally thought Dad had moved to New York. That's how often Dad is just not here. Dad is in another state for the holiday. It's just, oh, Dad lives there now. Sorry, what? So I told Dad. It's like, you understand, for the record, they think you don't live here anymore. Their understanding is it's a holiday, therefore Dad is gone. Dad just brushed it off with this pitiful message of like, no, I haven't moved. I wouldn't move. I want to stay near you guys. Meanwhile, every week the kids are like, we don't want to go. We don't want Dad picking us up. We don't want to go. Can't take a hint. 800, Alex? Yeah, that's okay. This is processing trauma. Some days it's crying and absolutely everything triggers you. And you hate yourself. And it's nothing but internal monologuing about everything you've been through and whether or not 90% of it is your fault or 90% of it is their fault. And then 2 days later, shit like yesterday happens and you're like, nope, 100% them. 100% them. 100% them. I really fucking hate going through this. And I know that I have no choice but to go through this. Because there's no hope of healing unless I do. There's also no guarantee of healing. That's the fucking truth.